Well, Qatar's Prime Minister says his country reserves the right to respond after Israel launched a deadly airstrike it said targeted senior Hamas leadership in Doha. So what can we expect in the coming hours and days? Dr. Adel Abdel Ghafar is Director of the Foreign Policy Program at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs, and he joins me now from Cairo. Good to have you with us this evening. Now, as I mentioned, Qatar's Prime Minister was quite vocal on what's happened. He describes this as state terrorism. So will Qatar respond? And if it does, how might that materialize?
Well, I think Qatar definitely reserves the right to respond, because if we just look back, what the Qataris, as well as the Egyptians and the Americans are doing, are trying to find a way out of this conflict and genocide in Gaza and try and find the ceasefire. So these Hamas negotiators were actually in Doha with the blessing of the US and Israel to find some sort of negotiated deal. You know, we've been in this war now for 2 years, 65,000 dead, destruction of hospitals, schools, the use of starvation as a tool of war, the killing of multiple journalists and so on. All of these war crimes are still unfolding in front of our own eyes. So what Qatar was doing is trying to find a way towards a ceasefire and hosting these talks in terms of goodwill. And what happens now is that basically the Israelis have trying to torpedo these talks, because in my personal opinion, I think the Israelis do not want to have a ceasefire. I think they've given up on their own hostages and want to pursue maximalist aims when it comes to Gaza, to push the population out, which is in fact ethnic cleansing.
Yes, so if that is what you think is happening as far as Israel's offensive is concerned, we are seeing that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Jordan, the President of UAE, they are all heading to Doha as we speak. So will the Arab states present some sort of united front, and how might that, what do you see happening? Would they have a united response to what Israel has done?
Yeah, definitely, because these attacks are really incredible, because it's the first time that Israel strikes at the GCC, and a lot of the GCC leaders are perhaps thinking and reflecting on their own security and thinking maybe they would be next. You know, over the last couple of years, there have been these normalization processes, these Abraham Accords with the Israelis, and trying to integrate Israel further into the region's architecture. But arguably, what the strike that has happened has thrown all of that out. And I think with the Gulf leaders and other leaders heading to Doha, this is a message of solidarity and highlighting how collectively they want to rebuke Israel. Of course, the real wild card here are the Americans. You know, did the Americans know about this? Did they give the green light? Why did not they warn the Qataris? And I think capitals in the region are really, people are reliant on the security umbrella of the US, but increasingly people are questioning how reliable are these security guarantees, whether this is in the Middle East or even further afield in Australia with AUKUS and so on. So all of these questions are really being grappled with across the region here.
Yes, I was going to say, what do you then make of the disconnect between what Qatar said and what the US said? The US said it informed Qatar that a strike was incoming. Qatar said, nope, we didn't know anything. What does it speak of how the Trump administration may be or might be handling the fallout from this strike?
I think they're trying to navigate the fallout, and according to the Qatari sources, the official sources, the Americans did not inform them. It was only after the attack started that they got the call. I would assume that President Trump is trying to just manage all of this. If you recall, President Trump came and visited the Gulf a few months ago and walked away with about $3 trillion in deals from the UAE, from Qatar, from Saudi Arabia, and so on. So I think he's trying to really safeguard these and trying to contain the anger of the Qataris, because Qatar and the US have had a long-standing security relationship. One of the biggest bases is based, or the US basis is based, Al Udeid is based in Doha. So I think the Qataris are asking genuine questions. If the Americans' base is there, if American security guarantees don't mean anything, then what is the whole point? If I just wanted to reflect a bit on the location of the attack,
yes.
I'm speaking to you from Cairo now, but I'm actually based in Doha. I've been living there for 10 years. I live about 2 kilometers away from the blast, and it's quite harrowing. It's a very nice residential area, many embassies. My daughter's nursery is about 1 kilometer away. So for the Israelis to strike in the middle of the day in such a blazing fashion, I think highlights how Israel is increasingly becoming a rogue state in the region and around the world.
Yes, of course. It's no secret that Hamas does, its representatives do conduct these negotiations in Doha. Everyone knows that. But what do you read into the timing of the strike?
Well, I read in the timing of the strike that the Israelis want to torpedo the ceasefire negotiations. The growing global pressure. You've seen the Norwegian fund disinvest from Israel. We've seen the Spanish Prime Minister really condemn Israel. We've seen multiple countries, including Australia, move towards recognition of Palestinian statehood. So increasingly, Israel is becoming a pariah state around the world. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu is basically focused on his own political survival, and that entails getting the right wing, making the right wing of his own government happy. And some of these ministers want to basically move out the population of Gaza in terms of forced displacement to clear Gaza out of its population. This is the real ambition here. And unfortunately, it's unfolding in front of our own eyes, and the world is unable to stop this ethnic cleansing.
Adel, you spoke just before about how close the strike was to your place of residence, your child's school as well. Do you feel safe going back, given what's happened?
I feel safe going back. Definitely, Qatar is a safe country. The Qataris are very hospitable people. I've been there for 10 years. My family and I were all happy there. But it has, of course, caused concern. But I think that the authorities have moved to allay the concerns of the people. And I think we're all just awaiting some sort of response, not just from Qatar, but from across the region, to condemn these attacks and find some sort of pressure to be put on the Israelis to stop acting with impunity, not just in Gaza, but they've also bombed Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iran, and now Qatar. You know, who's next? You know, this is a rogue actor across the region, and I think if they had made friends over the past few years, I think they're really losing them very quickly.
At this point, where do you think Arab states are as far as, you know, this global notion of a two-state solution is concerned? Are they moving further away from it? And do you think at some point, if these strikes like this continue, that they may be forced into some sort of an armed conflict, as inconceivable as it is at this moment?
I don't think an open conflict between the Arab states, because if you recall, Egypt, Jordan, now UAE, Bahrain all have peace treaties and agreements with Israel. But what would happen is basically Israel becomes increasingly isolated in the region. You know, a few years ago, Israel was trying to build bridges with countries in the region and trying to isolate Iran. The opposite is happening. You know, people feel a bit more sympathetic towards Iran now, and Israel is increasingly isolated. In terms of the two-state solution, there's already a two-state solution, the King Abdullah plan, that was put a few years ago, and it still stands. It basically wants Israelis and Palestinians to live peacefully together under 1967 law. So I think there is a way towards this two-state solution. But again, if you look at the statements by the right wing, Smotrich and the minister and the other ministers, they don't want a two-state solution. They basically want to take people out of Gaza, take over the West Bank, and build settlements. You know, and these are the facts that are happening right now on the ground. You know, as many countries move to recognize Palestinian statehood, the Israelis want to change the actions on the ground and expand the settlements and make it fait accompli. And basically, we're watching live this ethnic cleansing unfold, unfortunately, in Palestine.
Okay, we do have to leave it there. Dr. Adel Abdel Ghafar, we really appreciate your time speaking to us there from Cairo. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.